Assalamualaikum
Assalamualaikum
warahmatullahi
warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh.
Hello everyone, we are from group
Two.
2 and we would like to presentation about attitudes.
So let's get started.
In introduction, the British are often associated with certain characteristics. Stereotypes should be approached with caution and they are not always accurate. Three main reasons why stereotypes can be misleading. Stereotypes are widely held but oversimplified beliefs about a group of people. In the case of Britain, the British are often portrayed in a certain light, like being polite, reserved, and traditional. However, it is essential to approach such generalization with caution. While some of these attributes might have been true in the past, British society has undergone significant change over time, and this traditional view may no longer be relevant. There are three primary reasons why it's problematic to accept stereotypes about the British too easily. Societal change over time. The diversity within the UK, especially between England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and the influence of immigration and multiculturalism. Stereotypes are often based on outdated perceptions. Britain is called a land of tradition, but this applies mostly to public life. In private life, the British are less tradition-oriented than many other nations. One of the most common stereotypes about Britain is that it is a country steeped in tradition, from royal ceremonies to the annual state opening of Parliament. Britain is often portrayed as a nation that cherishes its historical customs. However, while these traditions are indeed preserved in the public domain, such as in political ceremonies or military events like the changing of the guard, they do not reflect the reality of everyday life for most people. In their personal life, the British are generally most less inclined to follow strict tradition, unlike many other cultures that still maintain numerous family customs or local celebrations. The British tend to be more individualistic, with fewer families celebrating ancient customs. They also rarely use traditional proverbs or saying in their day-to-day language, making them less tied to old custom than one might assume based on popular portrayals of British life. English versus British. Stereotypes are often based on outdated perception. Sorry. Oh, English culture dominates the UK, but there are key differences. First, anti-intellectualism is more common in England. Second, Scotland values education highly. Third, Ireland emphasizes verbal intelligence and wit. And fourth, Wales is known for producing many teachers. Although the UK is often seen as a single cultural entity, there are important differences between England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. One key difference is attitudes toward education. In England, there is a certain level of anti-intellectualism, where being overly academic can sometimes be viewed negatively. In contrast, Scotland has long placed a strong emphasis on education for all social classes. The Irish have a reputation for being quick-witted and skilled with words, while the Welsh are known for their contribution to education, producing many teachers who work across the UK and beyond. Multiculturalism. Immigration in 20th century made Britain more multicultural. Large cities have communities maintaining their cultural tradition. These communities are still integrated into British society. Due to large-scale immigration in the 20th century, Britain has become a highly multicultural society, especially in cities like London, Birmingham, and Manchester. Some neighborhoods have a strong cultural identity, such as areas with predominantly Indian, Caribbean, or Middle Eastern population. These communities maintain aspects of their original cultures, such as language, cuisine, and religious practice. However, despite these cultural differences, they are generally well integrated into British society, contributing to its diversity. Okay, conservatism. The British prefer continuity over rapid change. Tradition is valued even when everyday life is modern. Politicians often emphasize traditional family values to gain support. Old-fashioned elements are preserved in culture, Christmas card, pub design, and currency system. Despite being a modern society, the British have a strong attachment to tradition and continuity. They may embrace technological and social progress, but they often resist change for the sake of change. For example, British politicians frequently highlight traditional family values to appeal to voters, even though modern British families have diverse structure. Many aspects of British culture reflect nostalgia for the past, such as the preference for Christmas cards featuring old-fashioned winter scenes, the design of pubs to look historical, and the reluctance to adopt the metric system entirely. This sentimental attachment to the past demonstrates the conservative mindset of many British people. Being different. The British take pride in being different from other countries. They resist change that make them more like other nations. Example, driving on the left side on the road, using imperial measurement miles, pound, Fahrenheit, abusing EU regulations that affect British tradition. The British have a strong sense of national identity and take pride in their uniqueness. They often resist change that would make them more like other countries, even if there is no practical reason to maintain certain customs. For example, they continue to drive on the left side of the road despite most of the world using the right. They also prefer imperial measurements over the metric system, using miles instead of kilometers and pounds instead of kilograms. When the European Union proposed standardizing double-decker buses or beer measurement, the British strongly opposed it, viewing such change as threat to their national character. This resistance to conformity is a defining feature of British attitude.
Alright, next. The British have an idealized view of the countryside. The countryside is associated with peace, beauty, and safety. National parks and conservation efforts are highly valued. Hiking and gardening are popular hobbies. Even though most British people live in cities, they have a strong appreciation for the countryside. For to them, Rural areas represent peace, beauty, and better quality of life, free from crime and urban stress. The British government has designed large areas as national parks to protect nature from excessive development. Many people enjoy outdoor activities such as hiking with organizations like the Ramblers Association advocating for the preservation of public walking trails. Gardening is also a common hobby, and for those without personal gardens, local councils provide small rental plots where people can grow their own vegetables. There is the love of animals. The British have a deep emotional connection to animals. Nearly half of all households own at least one pet. There are pet cemeteries for deceased animals. Animals' rights are strictly enforced. Animals hold a special place in British culture. Nearly half of all households have at least one pet, and many people consider their pets part of their family. Some pet owners even arrange proper burials in designated pet cemeteries. Animal welfare laws are strictly enforced, making it illegal to harm or neglect pets. For example, like drivers are legally required to report if they accidentally hit a dog. And then wildfire conservation is also widely supported, with popular television programs and charities dedicated to protecting endangered endangered species. Bird watching is a particularly British hobby, with thousands of enthusiasts spending hours observing and recording bird species in their natural habitats. Next, Britain is known for formal ceremonies, but daily life is informal. Example of formality versus informality. At work, formal dress codes are expected. At home or with friends, dressing casually is common. Misunderstanding. British people may seem unfriendly because they rarely shake hands or use titles. While Britain is known for its loyal traditions and formal public ceremonies, everyday interactions are often quite informal. In professional settings, employees are expected to dress and behave formally. However, in social settings, casual clothing and relaxed behavior are the norm. Many outsiders misinterpret British informality as coldness, but in reality, avoiding excessive politeness, such as using titles like Mr. or Professor, is often a sign of familiarity and friendship rather than rudeness. Britain traditionally valued amateur, which means public spiritedness and amateurism, uh, participation in public life. So people were expected to contribute voluntarily rather than act only as professionalism, seen in politics, law, education, and sports. This attitude is declining, but charity work remains strong. Traditionally, British public life followed the idea that people should contribute voluntarily rather than act solely as professionals. Being too focused on a career was sometimes viewed with suspicion. Many roles in government, law, and education were carried out by people who saw their work as a service rather than just a job. This amateur approach extended even to sport, where many top level games remained amateur for a long time. However, professionalism is how becoming more valued. Despite this shift, volunteerism remains an important part of British life, with many people involved in charity work, fundraising, and community service. Next, for the last, is about privacy and attitudes towards sex. Privacy is highly valued in British culture. Asking personal questions is considered rude. Greetings like "How do you do" are formal, not real questions. British people are open about sex but prefer to keep it private. Political sex scandals are about hypocrisy or law breaking, not personal affairs. Sex education is legally required, but often avoided due to embarrassment. Prostitution is not illegal, but public soliciting is. Privacy is an essential part of British culture. People avoid asking direct personal questions, such as about salary or relationships, unless they are close to someone. Even greetings reflects this. "How do you do" is a formal phrase rather than an actual inquiry. This reserved nature extends to attitudes towards sex. While British society has become more open about sexual topics, they are still treated as private matters. Political scandals related to personal affairs usually gain attention only when they involve hypocrisy, illegality, or national security issues. In entertainment, sex is often discussed humorously through inoded rather than direct conversation. Sex education is a legal requirement in schools, but many teachers feel too embarrassed to discuss it properly, leading to gaps in knowledge. Similarly, the laws regarding prostitution reflect a balance between tolerance and discretion. Being a sex worker is not illegal, but publicly soliciting clients is against the law. This reflects the British preference for keeping personal matters private while maintaining a social order. Thank you for your attention. That's all from us. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.